The SNC Lavalin scandal here in Canada has just reached epic levels of what the hell is going on. Late last week, it was revealed that Conservative Leader Andrew Scheer received a letter from Justin Trudeau's lawyer announcing some kind of litigation or some kind of lawsuit launched from the Prime Minister towards the leader of the official opposition. Now, this is all regarding the SNC Lavalin scandal that is currently plaguing the federal Liberal government here in Canada, led by Justin Trudeau. And quite frankly, as I said in the opener, this has definitely given a new wrinkle to this scandal and has me asking, what the hell is going on? CBC has published both a letter, or at least made available the letter that Trudeau's lawyer sent to Andrew Scheer, as well as Andrew Scheer sent a response to Trudeau through his lawyer, and CBC has made that letter also available, of which the link to both these letters will be in the description below if you want to read it for yourself. But for me, I'm going to look at the relevant information from the letter. So let's dive right into this. Try to figure out what the hell is going on in Ottawa these days. So Trudeau's lawyer, Mr. Julian Porter, apparently sent a letter to Scheer on behalf of his client Justin Trudeau on March 31st, 2019. In this letter, Porter says that Scheer, in a March 29th statement, that's March 29th of this year, issued a press statement entitled Andrew Scheer Issues Statement on Jody Wilson-Raybould Documents. This was a statement that he published online on his social media, and it was in both French and English. Trudeau and his lawyer was apparently taking issue with some of the contents of this statements. The issue seems to be this phrase: these documents and recordings are concrete evidence that proves Justin Trudeau led a campaign to politically interfere with the SNC Lavalin's criminal prosecution. Now, when he talks about documents and recordings, this is the revelation that Jody Wilson-Raybould had recorded a conversation with then Clerk of the Privy Council Andrew Wernick before he left. I believe he retired, if I'm not mistaken. The lawyer, Mr. Porter, argues that this was meant and understood to mean that my client politically interfered with the criminal prosecution. Of course, the lawyer says this is entirely false, and there is no evidence to suggest that Trudeau has interfered or done any actual interference in the prosecution. Scheer apparently said in the statement, in his March 29th suspect statement here, he personally gave the orders, and when the former Attorney General refused to follow them and break the law, she was fired. He, I imagine, would be Trudeau, or at least that's what they're going to argue. Of course, the lawyer is arguing that statement is meant to convey the message that Trudeau tried to essentially go around the judicial legal process and interfere in a criminal prosecution by instructing or giving instruction to the Attorney General to effectively break the law. And when she refused, he punished her. And of course, he denies, saying that none of that is true. They point out to another part of the statement. Just looking over here, there's apparently 4 points in the letter of the statement. The next, I'll read it as is here. This is from Scheer's statement. Quote, Ms. Wilson-Raybould repeatedly told the Prime Minister and his top officials that their actions were entirely inappropriate and amounted to political interference. Despite her objections, the clerk of the Privy Council pressured her and made it clear that her job was on the line. Of course, the lawyer is going to argue that that was completely misunderstood. The comments was completely misunderstood. That Wilson-Raybould I'm just going to read what the lawyer has said here. This was meant and understood to mean that the Prime Minister has been informed by Ms. Wilson-Raybould that his actions were entirely inappropriate and amounted to political interference, and he falsely presented her to be unaware of her position. Of course, the lawyer says that is entirely false. The next suspect part of Scheer's statement, or alleged suspect part of his statement, let's be fair, since none of this has been tested in court. Justin Trudeau also told, this is again a quote from Scheer's statement, so we'll start with quote. Justin Trudeau also told Canadians what he knew to be false. He knew that his Attorney General had serious concerns about his plan to get SNC Lavalin off of serious criminal charges, but he looked Canadians in the eye and told them that no one had raised concerns with him. This is false, and he owes Canadians an explanation. The lawyer argues that this was meant and understood to mean that Prime Minister Trudeau lied to the public when he told the public that no one had raised concerns when he knew as a fact that Ms. Wilson-Raybould had raised concerns with him. This is entirely false, and the lawyer, Mr. Porter, argues. Porter argues that was entirely false, and it's the fact that it's false was confirmed in Warnick's statement. The last point is in paragraph 5 of Scheer's statement, and it begins with, quote, the entire SNC Lavalin scandal is corruption on top of corruption on top of corruption. 2 cabinet ministers have resigned on principle, and both Justin Trudeau's top political advisor and his top civil servant have resigned in disgrace. The Prime Minister has lost the moral authority to govern and must resign. Porter argues that this was meant and understood to mean that Justin Trudeau had engaged in dishonest and corrupt conduct that would contravene the Criminal Code of Canada. It was also meant and understood to mean the Prime Minister engaged in fraudulent conduct in performing public acts for his own purpose, which acts constituted. Trouble with that word, not sure why. Acts constituted of abuse of legitimate power. It further meant and understood to mean that he was individually the creator of the worst political conduct possible, being corruption, which is deserving of a criminal penalty of up to 14 years incarceration. Of course, the lawyer says that everything Scheer said in that statement was false, which apparently is meant to kick off a libel and slander case. We have Trudeau against Scheer. Now we're going to look at the letter from Scheer's lawyer that was sent in response. This is by Scheer's attorney, Mr. Peter Downard. Now, it's not as long. It's actually 1 page. I believe the other one was 3 pages. So, Downard sends Mr. Porter a much shorter letter in response, and it essentially goes like this. Downard says, I have been retained by the Honourable Andrew Scheer regarding your libel notice of March 31st. The Prime Minister's complaint is entirely without merit. It is profoundly disappointing that the Prime Minister is seeking to silence debate on matters of such great public importance. Mr. Scheer will not be intimidated. As leader of Her Majesty's loyal opposition, he is performing his constitutional duty to hold the Prime Minister and his government to account. If the Prime Minister actually intends to commence a lawsuit, he should proceed with it immediately. Mr. Scheer will defend it vigorously and will press for the expedited determination of the action. Scheer looks forward to obtaining the Prime Minister's evidence under oath and having this matter heard in open court. The Prime Minister must immediately take steps to preserve all documents, including electronic communications, notes, meetings, and other materials. He should immediately notify all members of the government involved in this matter, past and present, that they can expect to be called to testify. If the Prime Minister does not commence the lawsuit, he has threatened Mr. Scheer will conclude that the Prime Minister has properly acknowledged that Mr. Scheer's statements were appropriate and grounded in evidence before the Canadian public. Now, it should be noted in the coverage I've seen, Andrew Scheer has made several statements that are similar to what his lawyer has said, has stated how if Justin Trudeau feels that this lawsuit has a reasonable chance of succeeding and if he genuinely wants to pursue it, to go ahead, pursue it. Much for the same reasons stated in the letter, it's about, he looks at it as an opportunity to get Justin Trudeau to be able to testify to what he knows on this scandal under oath. Which, quite frankly, is quite a little bit of an ingenious plan by Scheer to just effectively, in this case, what looks like just trying to call his bluff. I was a little surprised that Scheer was able to pull this off and look as good as he did pulling it off. Because one of my biggest complaints with Scheer has been his lack of personality, that he doesn't seem like he'll be able to compete against Trudeau in the next election, because that's one of the only things Trudeau has going for him. He at least has personality around him. He has a charisma to him, where Scheer doesn't. But I've got to hand it to Scheer on this one. But this just makes me wonder, what are the Liberals thinking at this point? Who is Justin Trudeau surrounding himself with that he could think that trying to file a defamation or libel lawsuit against the official opposition is a good thing? The official opposition is supposed to criticize the government. Now, granted, that doesn't mean lie about the government. Their criticism should be based in fact. I think everybody on this planet, whether you hate Trudeau, I think he's the worst prime minister to ever have existed, or you think he's the best one to have ever existed, or anything in between, I'm sure we all could agree that the opposition's criticism should at least be based in fact. But like I said, that is the job of the opposition. They're not supposed to kowtow to the government and support every little thing they do. Their job is to criticize. Their job is to find the flaws in the government action. And if scandal erupts, that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to ask questions about it. This is why we have an official opposition. This entire thing makes me wonder, who is advising Trudeau? Is Trudeau all right? Is everything okay with him? Is he surrounding himself by just yes men? Or is there some incompetent individual in the Prime Minister's surrounding who is telling him to make these horrendous decisions? Regardless of if this case has merit, which I'm not sure it does. We'll get into that in a minute. But regardless if this case has merit, the optics of the Prime Minister of Canada, the person in charge of the government of the country, trying to sue the official opposition, that is horrible optics. That is ridiculous optics, and it's not making him look good. It's not helping the SNC Lavalin scandal go away. It's prolonging it even longer. This makes no sense to me. I wonder who is advising Trudeau, and why are these individuals still advising him? Why has he not brought in new staff? Is he surrounded by yes men, or is he just surrounded by people with crazy ideas that could sell them? Makes me wonder what the hell is going on in Ottawa right now. Now, going to the merits of the case. Again, huge disclaimer. Imagine neon lights. I'm not a lawyer. All I am is a court reporter for my day job. So I've seen quite a few civil cases, and to tell you the truth, I am not sure how this is going to end up before a judge. And this isn't going to be no small town provincial court judge. I imagine this is going to be before some Supreme Court judge. Prime Minister suing the opposition. I can't see that going into some lower court. That maybe I'm wrong, but whatever. I can't see a judge looking at this case and honestly thinking that it isn't vexatious and an abusive process. I can't see a judge looking at this and thinking that this is a good idea and isn't a waste of time based on the merits. Now, realistically, it is reasonable to have questions when the news of the SNC Lavalin scandal broke in February. Regardless if you could prove that there is corruption, it is reasonable to have questions about what went on. And in this case, it would be reasonable for the opposition, especially the official opposition, to start asking questions of a majority government to find out what went on. If this was a minority government situation, we might be in an election right now. Maybe not. We could be heading into one. Well, if this is a minority situation, we might be on the verge of an election instead of having to wait until the next election, because it's a majority government. But asking questions about this situation is definitely warranted and should be accepted. So I don't know what the Prime Minister is thinking with this lawsuit. I don't see it working at all. I don't see it being effective. And I think it's almost like Trudeau is trying to gift Scheer the election. I now maintain that it's really his to lose. And we'll see. A lot can happen. But not to be outdone at this point, Jane Philpott, one of the MPs alongside Jody Wilson-Raybould, who she resigned from Trudeau's cabinet and was effectively kicked out of the Liberal caucus last week. She is alleging, and she's fighting back against the expulsion, saying that Trudeau had contravened the law, kicking her out. So this scandal is likely not going to go away anytime soon, and it's likely going to fester and grow. And if this behavior, like lawsuits, threatening lawsuits and whatnot, is any sign of how the Liberals are going to react, I don't see this scandal dying down anytime soon. I could see there being new developments by the day, or at least by the week. Anyway, regardless, more to come. You never know. Anyway, that seems to be the new developments in the scandal. We'll see what happens next. I want to thank you for watching this video. If you like what you saw, please like it. If you don't, well, there's the thumbs down. If you agree, disagree, or just want to continue the conversation, please leave a comment down below. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Facebook, Minds, and Twitter. The links will be down below in the description. Thank you again. Have yourself a good day. Until next time.